So I mentioned you've written several books. You focused a lot in prior books. You wrote Predictably Irrational, The Upside of Rationality, and Irrationally Yours. What is your fascination with irrationality all about?
So I actually wrote a few other books, but but even my book on dishonesty is about irrationality. I have a book on motivation at work that is about irrationality, and I think that for me there are kind of two ways to think about irrationality. One is the standard economic thinking, right? Here is the perfect rational human being, can think about everything, make decisions the right way, take everything into consideration, has no emotions. And I want to disprove that point. And I want to disprove this point because the rational human being is kind of the center for policy decisions, right? If we make decisions as companies, as governments, and so on, we base it on this rationality. And if we make it on a wrong model, we're going to get the wrong decisions. But the second version of irrationality for me, and maybe the more important one, is that for me, irrational is when we don't understand what's causing our decisions. Because you see, if there's something that we're not rational in the sense that we don't do it like economic theory, tough for economic theory. But if there's something that we ourselves don't understand why we act in a certain way, that's a potential for a pitfall. That's a potential for us to make mistakes. And I worry about mistakes. I worry about our financial mistakes, our health mistakes, the way we waste our time. All of those things for me are just waste. So how do we get ourselves to have a better understanding of where we make the right decisions, where we make the wrong decisions? How do we improve things to prevent that terrible human waste?
So now, is that, and I was going to ask you this question, is that, to me, sounds like a good definition of behavioral economics versus traditional economic theory. Is that essentially how you would describe the differences?
Yes, absolutely. So in standard economic theory, people are always right? When people are behaving in a certain way, we don't ask whether they're right or wrong. We're saying, why are they making that correct decision? But we assume they make a correct decision. In behavioral economics, we don't make assumptions about people's rationality. Instead, we just observe what people do. So it's more of a science than kind of a set of beliefs about it. We observe how people behave, and then we say, are people rational? And often we find that the answer is no. It's a very empirical study. And economics is a really interesting social science because economics is a descriptive study. Here's how we think people behave, but also a prescriptive study. Here is how we should design healthcare, taxation, whatever. But if the assumptions are wrong, the prescriptions are wrong. So I think that the real important thing about behavioral economics is to say, let's understand why exactly we work in all kinds of ways we're working, where we deviate from rationality. And then let's think about how do we go ahead and design the world to get us to optimal outcome. And the most simple way is to think about education. In the financial realm, we call this financial literacy. And from a standard economic perspective, you would say, if people make the wrong decision, just tell them. People text and drive, just tell them that they're dangerous. People overeat, just tell them it's not exactly great for them. People spend too much money, just tell them. Because from the rational perspective, if people are doing the wrong thing, it can only be because they don't know. In behavioral economics, we say, no, that's just not true. People know that texting and driving is an incredibly stupid thing to do. It's just that we get addicted to these little devices. We know that eating too much is not good for us, but it's about the long term, and we care about the short term. I mean, all of those things. So at the end, it means that the solutions are not just about telling people what to do. It's arming people with better tools, for example.
So you reminded me of something I wanted to ask you about that was in the book too. Why do you think so many people take their money and put it in different buckets? This is my vacation fund. This is my going out to eat fund. This is my retirement fund. Because your earlier point is that it's all the same money and it shouldn't matter.
Well, that's right. If you're perfectly rational, it shouldn't matter. But we sometimes recognize our irrationality, and bucketing our money helps us budget. It's not ideal, but given our limitations, it actually helps us. So imagine that you try to think about the opportunity cost. And every time you go to buy lunch, you think, what else is going to give up? That's just too exhausting, too complex, too difficult. We're not going to do it. So instead you say, let me not think about the whole set of opportunity cost. Let me create a bucket for eating out. And now I see how eating out now is taking from that bucket. Now it's not accurate, right? If we design a robot to think about money, that's not what we would do. But in our limited capacity, it really helps. And actually, I often recommend to young people to do exactly that. So one of my recommendations is to say, take your discretionary spending, Lyft and eating out and buying gifts and whatever, entertainment. Decide on a budget per week. Put that on a prepaid card that alerts you every morning how much money you have left, and spend everything on that card. And now what you do is you've taken the discretionary spending, you limit it to a week. If it's limited for a month, you'll run out way too soon. But if it's for a week, you can actually think about it. And now you can think about the opportunity cost. You can say, if I go and eat a big dinner tonight, I will have to save for the next few days. So sometimes a good solution is a solution that realizes we're not perfectly rational and create a system that we can act within that in a semi-optimal way. Not perfect, but at least closer.
But that's great advice. All right, well, and something people can take away from an actual action they can take
That's right.
in their own lives. Yeah.
Here's another question. If you're going to do this and you're going to load the money on this prepaid card, would you be better off loading it on Monday or on Friday?
Well, if you load it on Friday, you're probably going to blow it all on the weekend, right?
Exactly.
So you better do it on Monday. Yeah.
That's right. If you blow it on Monday, it will last longer. And also the weekend is a good time to scale up and down if needed. So if you do it on Monday and you on Friday don't have enough money, you can still survive. If you start on Friday, and by Tuesday it will be too late,
right.
And then you can't really control your spending to the same degree.